So let's have a look at the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. This is the 5G variant, and this is also just the base model. This is the best value, at least here in my country, pretty heavily discounted right now. Also because I bought it with a monthly subscription for cellular connection. So I am tied to like 6 months, but including the 6 months of data that I have to pay for, this was significantly cheaper than the cheapest one without a subscription. So definitely great value there. So this is the 8GB model with 128GB of SSD or storage for apps and so on, but you can expand the storage with a micro SD card. So that's definitely what I'm going to do. So 128 should be enough to just hold my apps, and everything else will just go onto the SD cards, like series or shows and whatever I'm downloading will go to the SD card. And my reasoning for getting this one here is actually just to get it out of my system. Maybe I'll keep it, maybe I'll end up returning it, but I'm gonna try it out for 14 days. I'm gonna replace my trusty M1 MacBook, which I really enjoy using. Fantastic little computer, no fan, totally silent, pretty good performance as well. This is definitely not up to the same kind of performance, but considering I'm only using my MacBook M1 for browsing the web, emailing, some casual photo editing, I hope this one will be enough. And my girlfriend kind of needs a new computer. Her laptop is getting a little bit slow, and I feel like it's not the best time to buy a new MacBook, considering there should be new MacBooks out soon. So she can inherit my old one, or my M1 MacBook, if I end up keeping this one here. And also because I'm currently using a Samsung phone. I actually sold my iPhone 13 Pro Max. Got a little tired of that USB 2 interface with Lightning connector. And I recently actually got the Samsung Tab S8, just a regular model. Really like that. Just using it around the house. I've been using it every day ever since. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to try the Ultra, because this is actually a fantastic tablet, running very smooth, nice animations, no chuck up or no lag or anything like that. It's been very fast and fluid for me, and this is also just a base model, 8GB of memory and 128GB of storage. And one of the big reasons why I wanted the big one, the Ultra, is because I wanted to use it with Dex, Samsung Dex, as a kind of laptop replacement versus the smaller one here. I believe Dex is a little too small. The normal Plus model, again, a little too small for me. The 13.3-inch screen on my MacBook M1 is, kind of the sweet spot, but up into the 14-inch region or area, definitely where I would like to be. This is maybe a little bit too big actually with its 14.6-inch, so it's kind of getting into the 15-inch territory. So I'm a little curious to see if it's actually a little too big, or if it will be actually fine, of course, for transporting this tablet here and just using it around the house, of course, hand holding and putting it on a desk. And one of the reasons why I also wanted to get this one, because right now you get the keyboard case for free included, although it is not shipped with the tablet. I have to apply for that using the members app inside this tablet, and then it will be reshipped to me within 40 days. That's 40, not 14. So it will be more than a month before I will actually see that keyboard case, which is also one of the reasons why I, at least as of now, I'm going to use these two cases here that I bought off Samsung's website. 50% off on all the cases for the Galaxy tablets. So this was actually quite inexpensively. I already have this protective standing cover on my S8, which I really like. It does make the tablet a little bit heavier than I would probably like, but definitely is nice to hold the tablet with this one here, and has that kind of nice kickstand there. So I bought the same cover for the S8 Ultra, and as well as the book cover. And then I will get the keyboard cover down the line, so I can kind of use it as a laptop. Not really sure I'm going to use the keyboard cover actually, because I don't really type that much. Most of the typing I'm doing is like URLs and search field in YouTube, and the occasional email and reply to comments and text messages and so on. So I'm not really writing anything long like articles or book or whatever. It's really just short typing sessions I have on my laptop. I hope this will be enough. But anyways, enough talk. Let's get into this one here. Unfortunately, of course, with all of the S8 tablets from Samsung, we do not get a charger in the box. As you can probably see, the box is very slim. That's a little unfortunate, especially with this Ultra Tab here, because this is an 11,000, it's a 200 milliamp hour battery inside this tablet. You can charge it up to 45 watts, so definitely recommend getting a 45 watt charger. You can use whatever kind of USB-C charger you have lying around, but you should definitely consider not using something like this one here, a 2 amp mobile phone charger. You should use something, I would say at least 25 watt and above that up to, of course, the 45 watt fast charging that this tablet supports. And like I said, 128 gigabyte of storage, 8 gigabyte of RAM. I don't feel comfortable paying more than I paid for this kind of computer. I would rather just get a normal computer with more memory and storage if I wanted to pay more than I actually paid for this one here. This is kind of in the territory of a MacBook M1 here in my country, actually a little bit more expensive. And again, going for the 12 gigabyte memory or the 16 gigabyte of memory, the price would just go up significantly from there, especially if I want the 5G variant as well. And then of course we have the back side here with the two seals there, so let's just cut through those. And again, I'm not really sure I'm gonna keep this tablet here, so I'm kind of curious to try it out. Some of the obvious dislikes I have, or the dislikes I have already without actually using this tablet, is first of all, it uses a OLED screen. OLED is a nice technology, and yeah, I like it in my smartphones, but every time I use it on a bigger device, last time I tried was a Samsung tablet as well, Android tablet several years ago, with that PWM flicker that can put a lot of strain on your eyes, so you can get kind of nausea, you can get tired looking at a screen like this, and I had issues with that just using the 8-inch tablet like years ago. I hope it's gotten better. One of the other things I definitely do not like about this tablet is the fact that the in-screen fingerprint sensor is an optical version. So it's not ultrasonic like it is on the smartphones, which is definitely a much superior technology in my opinion. The optical one, definitely do not like that. I do not like the notch that we also have on this tablet here because of those big selfish cameras. So that's a lot of negativity right out of the bat, but I have to try it before I can actually give my final conclusion and my final verdict on this tablet here. So yeah, I just have to get it out of my system, so to speak. But yeah, you get the S Pen in the box, which is fantastic. This is still not something you see on other manufacturers like Microsoft Surface. You still have to buy the pen, as well as, of course, Apple iPads. You still have to get the pencil there as well. This one is made in China, and I kind of like this pen. It's fine enough. And one thing I really like about Samsung is they still use the Wacom technology that does not require a pen with a battery. So even though you can charge this pen here, the S Pen, it's only for the Bluetooth functionality inside. So you can use it as a remote shutter, and you can use it to control various things around the operating system remotely. But to use this as a pen on the display, you do not need to charge this one here. And I really like that, even though it does add a little bit of latency and lag when you're typing. Not really something you will notice these days. It's just gotten so good, but definitely like this technology better than what Apple is doing, and also Microsoft, where you kind of need to charge those to actually use them, especially because I don't use this on a regular basis. And whenever I needed to use the pencil on the iPad, it's always been discharged, so I need to charge it up. And yeah, this I think is much better because I can just leave it around and don't think about battery. And I can just pick it up and use it on the tablet. And I can also use it on my S22 Ultra, the same technology there, as well as, of course, on the Galaxy Tab S8 and all the other tabs from Samsung line. What else we get in the box here is this little box within the box, and I believe this is the USB cable. So yeah, exactly the same cable we get with the Tab S8. So it's a USB-C to USB Type-C, and I believe this is 1.8 meters or just below 2 meters in length. Kind of like that they include a longer cable, but then again, I would have preferred also to see a 45 watt charger in the box. And next off, small box here as well with the SIM/SD ejector. So if you have the one without the SIM card, you still need to use this one here to get a micro SD card inside the tablet. But of course, this one here does have 5G and also can use a micro SD card. So definitely need this tool if you want to install a SIM and a micro SD card. And other than that, you kind of just get some quick start guide here in many different languages. I live in Scandinavia, so this is of course market dependent. It will be different depending on where you buy it, but I believe it's the same model they sell all over Europe. But of course, if you live in the US and other region of the world, you will probably see a little bit different packaging. That's all we get in the box. Let's just bring the main character into show here. The Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. Very slim right out of the bat. That's definitely something you notice. It's actually not that big, not as big as I was fearing actually. Just of course seeing photos of this, it's definitely a big tablet, no question about that. but maybe it is manageable. Compare it here, of course, to the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8. It is kind of dwarfing that quite a bit. Like the 11-inch form factor for just sitting around in the couch and holding it in my hands. Maybe the S Ultra will be a little too big for that kind of scenarios. And we have, of course, the M1 MacBook here. So we are looking at a significantly wider screen, but actually not as tall. But of course, once you throw a case on here, especially the keyboard case, it will probably be around the same tallness as the M1 MacBook. You're also getting a significantly bigger screen here. And one of the great things, because I want to use this as a laptop as well, is the 16:10 aspect ratio. 16:10 is my favorite laptop screen. Maybe not the best tablet screen if you want to use it in a portrait mode, but a landscape mode, I feel like this is the sweet spot and great compromise between 16:9 and 3:2 or 4:3. I don't really like 4:3 on bigger screens, like on the bigger iPads. On the bigger iPads, I feel like 4.3 is a little bit too squarish. But yeah, here we have the beast of a tablet, and right out of the bat, you do see a lot of reflections. That's definitely one area I feel like Samsung could do a lot better. It's a very reflective screen, and it's the same with the tablet S8, which actually looks to have a little bit of a darker screen compared to the OLED here. This is of course just an LCD screen on the S8, so better anti-reflective coating is definitely something I think Samsung should be working on for the future releases of these tablets here, especially because this is only a 400 nit screen. This is of course also an OLED screen, so you can't really compare LCD and OLED nit or brightness, but it is not the most bright screen. I would have preferred maybe to see around 600 nit or something like that, sustained brightness, but it can also show HDR, but only HDR 500. So not really the most impressive, but still it is fine enough, I think. You have the power button there, volume rocker, microphone hole. You have, of course, the SIM/SD card, a micro SD card ejector there, and a little tray. And you have the speakers. Again, that's also one area I've been very impressed with. My S8 has phenomenal speakers, sound very, very good. And of course, you have two of them on the right side, as well as the USB-C plug. And this is, of course, USB 3.2, I believe, so it's 5 gigabit, but also supports DisplayPort out. I believe it can only screen mirror, so it can only mirror what's on this screen here. But you can connect the monitor and use it as kind of a computer. That's kind of nice as well. And you have the poker pins here on the bottom, which is magnetically held in place, or where you hold the keyboard magnetically in place. And those two holes there just to align the keyboard. And on the left side here, we do have another microphone and the two other stereo speakers. So you have a quad speaker array, and I suspect it will sound a little bit better than actually the Tab S8. And on the back side here, do have pretty much the same aesthetics as on all of the other Tab, from the Tab S7 to like the Tab S8. Sound tuned by AKG, what is down there, but of course Samsung owns AKG, so it's kind of just tuned by Samsung. You have this glass area here, of course, for the pen, for charging it, but like I said, you do not need to charge it unless you want to use that Bluetooth functionality of the pen. If you would just want to use it as a pen writing on a screen, you do not need to charge it up. Of course, we do have the dual camera here in the back. Not really a big tablet camera kind of guy, but I do kind of prefer having it on a tablet as well, just to scan documents and so on. And a flashlight can also come in handy. I actually used it quite a few times on my tablets throughout the years. And we have a little bit of Samsung branding up here in the left corner. Of course, a lot of antenna here for Wi-Fi and 5G connectivity. And I believe it's exactly the same case you get if you buy the 5G or the Wi-Fi only version. So they kind of just repurpose the same case. And I believe we can also actually house the pen up here. Yeah, so you can kind of rest it up here, but of course it won't charge up there, but actually pretty sturdy up here as well. So it won't fall out accidentally, and also on the back side, but I just find the back side to be quite an annoying place to actually keep your pen when you're just carrying around the tablet, because I constantly forget it's there, and you put it down on the table or on the couch, or just move it around, and you'll find this pen all over your house or whatever you have used the tablet last. I found it in the couch a few times before I actually got this case here on my S8, because you can see the pen there is nicely tucked in, but else I kind of forget it's there because you can't really see it when you're using the tablet. And then of course here on the front, we do have those two cameras, one wide and one ultra wide. I believe both of them are 12 megapixels and can also record in 4K video. So have very good front-facing cameras for, of course, conference calls and so on. Don't really use the front-facing camera, so I would have preferred not having the notch there, because that's one downside with these kind of cameras here, you kind of need a little more room. So yeah, it has a little bit of a protruding notch there. Not my most liked design aesthetics. But anyways, let's try and actually turn this bad boy up, or on rather. Let's see if there's any kind of power on the device. Samsung. And of course, I do have a lot of bright light shining down towards the tablet, so it's kind of also a test to the backlighting or the light on the screen. Of course, it's an OLED. It doesn't have backlight. It's the pixels themselves that actually lights up. I can read the screen properly in this kind of environment. It should be okay also if I am outside and about. And right at the bat, the screen does definitely look a little dim to my eyes, but of course the camera is probably recording it just fine. Let's set it up to English and let's set it up to United Kingdom. Click next. And we don't have to agree to all the optional ones here. So let's just agree to the ones that are required. And right out of the bat, I really like that big canvas here. Looks kind of nice. Not as, I wouldn't say claustrophobic, but on a smaller tablet like this one here, things of course looks a lot smaller. This one, I really like the big screen. That's at least my first impression. But of course you need to allow Samsung application to get access to all of these settings here, or all of the functions of your phone or tablet, if you want to use all of the services. So just agree to this one here. Log into Wi-Fi network. And of course this one has Wi-Fi 6E. I only have a Wi-Fi 6 router, but that also should be plenty fast. Let me just log in. And yeah, this keyboard, this kind of screen here is definitely, I like typing on that alone. So again, like I said, I don't think I actually need a keyboard cover. Maybe when I'm traveling, I will take that along with me, but just at home here, typing in URLs and passwords and responding to a quick email and comments and so on, text messages, I think I'll actually just use the on-screen keyboard. But anyways, let's just connect to Wi-Fi. And usually Samsung tablets or phones needs to restart at this point. And yeah, no surprise, we need to hit restart and let it do its thing. And of course, next step, I'm asked if I want to copy apps and data. I do not like to do so. I want to set it up as a new device. Of course, log into a Google account if you want to use your Google services and download applications from the Google App Store. Let's just do that right now. So I am logged into Google. Let's select search engine. You can select pretty much from all the major search engines out there. I'll just stick with Google. It's fine for my use case. And of course we get to the authentication or protecting your tablet. You can use face recognition, but it will only use the camera, so not as secure. And you also kind of have to log in every, I believe it's 4th hour, or else it will default back to like a fingerprint or a pattern or pin, whatever you have used. Definitely recommend using the fingerprints. So use the optical fingerprint sensor, which is not as secure as a ultrasonic fingerprint sensor that we have, of course, on the phones, but it's definitely more secure than face recognition. So let's just select fingerprints and click next. I believe you can have up to 3 fingerprints on this one here, and I will select the pin. Of course, you have to type the pin whenever you want to log into your tablet after reboot, or also after a specific period of time, you will be forced to use your pin just for security measures. And I always like to have confirmed pin without tapping OK. So I can just type in the pin and I'm inside the tablet or phone without having to tap OK as well. But anyways, I will just select a pin code and let's move on to next step. Okay, start scanning with the center of your fingertip. And you can see the sensor over here. Actually a nice place, like for a tablet here, if you use it in landscape mode, this is the correct placement for a fingerprint. And especially if you're coming from like an older generation iPad and you use those in landscape mode, you're kind of used to, of course, the fingerprint being over here. But one thing I don't like with optical sensors is the fact that it lights up. You can see whenever you're tapping the fingerprint sensor, that's very annoying at night. And we just settle with the right thumb for now, but of course you can add up to 3, like I said, other fingers if you want to do so. And okay, Google, let's just keep that on. And of course we have to agree. Of course I triggered my speaker at home, but man, I really like the big canvas we have here. It looks very nice. Not so crammed together as I'm used to, of course, noticing on other devices. And if you have a Samsung account, you can just log in here, but you can also, of course, create an account, or you can just sign in with Google, or you can sign in with a QR code. I actually never tried that. Okay, scan a QR code with the phone or a tablet, sign into a Samsung account. Let's just try that. So that could potentially be a little bit faster. And yeah, you can see here on my Samsung phone, I can just log in using this method. Definitely much faster than I've done on other devices, where you have to type in your, of course, password and email. That was very easy. I wish I knew that before, or all the other times I have set up Samsung devices. Okay, optional. So you don't have to agree to any of those, but you kind of have to agree to your privacy notice and terms and condition. So you don't have to agree to those optional ones here. Anyways, let's just hit next. And of course, you can see here, you're all set up. Let's hit finish, and we are kind of inside the tablet. So pretty much exactly the same setup process as with other Samsung devices, whether it's being phone or tablet. And as always, a lot of things is running here in the background. Let's just go into settings and see what kind of storage we have available. So we have 107 or 100.7 gigabyte available storage. So we're using around 37.3 gigabyte right out of the bat. And I believe most of that storage is, it is system. Then it's 22 gigabyte. We only have 8 gigabytes of memory. I really would have liked to see 12 gigabyte, but like I said, I just didn't feel like I wanted to pay like high-end laptop prices to get that. But you can also use the RAM Plus up to 8 gigabytes, so you can kind of use swapping onto the SSD or to the flash storage of the device. If you want to use a lot of multitasking, you can store apps on the SSD or on the flash drive itself. That way they will load a little bit faster, but it's not as fast as proper RAM inside the device. But you can see around 3.6 gigabytes available. Just for the operating system there, it is using quite a lot. And let's just get into applications right below there, and let's see what kind of stuff we actually have installed here. So of course we have all the AR stuff from Samsung, a lot of Samsung apps like calculator, calendar, and it still is a little bit fragmented in my opinion on Samsung tablets. So we still have like the Samsung App Store, we have the Google App Store, and we have Samsung SMS messages, and we have Google messages, and you know, there's a lot of, you can see the Galaxy Store there. You also have the Samsung Gallery, and we have Google Photos installed. So still is a lot of duplicates on here. Gmail as well as Outlook is also usually pre-installed. So you can see that we have Google Messages and we have Samsung Messages. Yeah, it is a little bit annoying to deal with. So I hope Samsung will kind of clean it up a little bit in the future just to get a more clean experience. But the only real bloatware we have is actually Spotify, and I believe those are included with all Samsung tablets, and also Samsung is kind of working with Spotify, I think so, as well as Microsoft. So if we get into applications here, we usually have the Microsoft folder with Outlook, OneDrive, and Office. I use Microsoft 365, so it's fine for me. I use OneDrive and I use Outlook exclusively, and of course Office. We also have these Galaxy Pics, which is also something for note-taking and so on. Third-party application, a little bit bloatware there. Then we have the Google folder, of course, with also a mail client. And we have the Samsung folder here with all of the Samsung apps. And the Members app is what I need to use if I wanted to claim that keyboard cover. Let's actually see if it is inside the Members app here. So I have to go in beneath Benefits. And yeah, you can see here, if I bought a Galaxy Tab S8 in the period of the 2nd to 29th of May, and I'm recording this as of 19th May 2022, I have to click here to use this offer, and I can of course claim for that free keyboard cover. And one thing I really like about the keyboard cover for the S8 Ultra, Tab S8 Ultra, is the fact that it has backlighting and also a glass trackpad. I believe that's the only one in the S8 line of tablets that actually have those two functions. Let's go into display. Something I always do on my tablets, whether it's being OLED or not OLED, is use the dark mode. Of course on OLED it makes a little more sense, because you are not really emitting any light if you are turning off those pixels, because the pixel themselves is the one that are actually emitting the light. But actually, before I turn off on dark mode, I kind of want to see off angle, like color shift, which is something that has plagued a lot of tablets in the past. And of course, you need to kind of look at a white background. If there's any kind of color shift, there is a little bit of purple magenta, but I have to get up to a very extreme angle there to be able to see. So just from a normal angle, it actually looks quite nice. No green color shift or red color shift. Pretty impressive actually. Not perfect, but this is among the better of the bigger screens I've seen, at least in recent time. But you can see there the flickering. I cannot see this with my own eyes, but of course I can pick it up on the camera. But still, it can be a little bit much to look at if you are kind of a little bit sensitive to PWM flicker. Let's just select the dark mode and let's actually crank the brightness all the way up. Yeah, I don't feel like it did much. Like I have a lot of studio light here shining down towards the tablet and I can read everything just perfect. I think actually this is pretty freaking good. Would have been nice to see a little bit brighter screen, but this is very bright to my eyes, even with all the light, and I can see my own reflection and so on. But has Samsung put a less reflective screen or coating on this glass screen here, I feel like it would have been a better experience, because you have to increase the brightness of the screen to accommodate a lot of those reflections. And of course, if they had a proper anti-reflectable coating on there, you will not have to crank up the brightness as much. Let's just get into display again. Let's set the screen time out to 5 minutes. And that's also one thing I don't like about OLED screens is, you have a potential for burn-in if you have the same screen on for too long a period of time. So you can see the maximum amount of time you can actually have the screen on without it automatically time out is 10 minutes. And if you look at the Tab S8 here, which has a standard LCD screen, you can go up to 30 minutes, which I definitely do like, but I keep it at 5 minutes. I find that's fine for me. But of course, that's one downside with OLED again. Kind of a little bit sensitive to burn-in. Default, it comes with the vivid mode. Let's just keep it on that. And of course, I don't have the swipe back gesture. So used to just swiping from the edges to go back and swipe up to go home. Adaptive brightness, let's just use that actually for this type of setup here. And out of the box, it does come at 120 Hz refresh rate, which is definitely what I'm going to use. I'm a little bit unfortunate though that it doesn't have a variable refresh rate. Even the LCD screen on the S8 does have so, and of course the smartphones, the high-end smartphones, does have a variable refresh rate, even though it's an OLED. So I would have liked to see that, just to save a little bit of battery life. But definitely, once you get used to the 120 Hz, I cannot go back to 60 Hz. So that is something I have to keep on. So navigation bar, actually, I think I will keep it at the old style there, or the classical style with a home button and a multitasking button, because of this big screen. I'm not really sure if it's comfortable like swiping from the edge and so on. Maybe I was just so used to it, so I kind of need it to be on, but else you can of course use swipe gestures, and you can swipe to go home, swipe hold to go back here, and of course swipe from the edges back to go back. But let's just use the default buttons there. And let's just actually try and get into Samsung Dex, just to see how it actually looks on a device like this. That is the mode I plan to use this one on. And one of the reasons why I wanted the big one here is because it can actually kind of resemble a proper operating system. Of course, you have your desktop here with all your apps. You have your app tray down here. You can kind of open up and you still have like the multitasking button and home button and back button. But everything is laid out more as a proper desktop operating system. So I'm gonna try this one, and you can see everything is opened in like window mode. So if you open Play Store, for instance, it will open in window mode, and you kind of have to go full screen if you want to go full screen. You can go, of course, up and down like normal with the mouse, finger, and also with the mouse on the keyboard. But the nice thing also is there is a close app. So when you hit that, you'll kind of close the app, so it won't really run in the background in memory, which is something I never do pretty much when I'm on my other devices, tablet or smartphone. I'll just swipe to go home and it will still run in the background. But this is more in line with how I would use like a laptop computer. Of course, I will close down the apps that I don't use, and I will constantly just have my internet browser and Outlook open, switch between the two, and then open and close whatever apps I need in between that. Let's actually go in here and see if there is a firmware update or a software update. And let me just download every update, not only in terms of software. You can see there is actually an update here. This is a 616 megabyte update. And I suspect there is also a lot of updates in Google Play Store. Let's go in and see. Yeah, you can see there's 21 updates there. And let me just install some benchmark applications or update everything, and I will get back and let's run some benchmark and have a closer look at what kind of performance we can get out of this tablet here. So let's try and install a micro SD card. I'm not going to install a SIM card just yet, but I will install a micro SD card so we can get a little more storage. And of course, you need to use a little bit of a tool here to get into this, like all other devices nowadays. Courtesy of Apple, really a bad design in my opinion. But yeah, that's the way the world is going right now. But this is, like said, the 5G variant, so it can house both a micro SD on one side, and you can also have a SIM here on the other side. Of course, this is a nano SIM. A little unfortunate though that the tablet doesn't support eSIM. I feel like eSIM would have been the perfect thing nowadays. At least I suspect something in 2022, at least a flagship device supporting eSIM nowadays. But unfortunately it doesn't do so. But anyways, let's just get into this tablet. Let's just try out the fingerprint sensor there. And in my first impressions of trying this tablet device, just setting it up, installing some applications, logging in and out of the device, the fingerprint sensor is actually pretty okay. But you can see you definitely need to hold it like it's just shy of a second for it to actually register your finger. It's not enough to just touch the screen. You need to just hold it, you know, a split second there, and you kind of get used to it. But it is a little bit slower than the one on my S22 Ultra. Because yes, that's an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, and this is of course an optical one. So it does shine a bright light in towards your finger there to be able to kind of scan your finger. Can be a little annoying at night, but I feel like this is actually a pretty okay trade-off. Definitely would have preferred an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, especially considering this is the most expensive high-end tablet. Also shares the Ultra name, like on the Ultra smartphone from Samsung, but still it is a little bit of a downgrade, but definitely fine enough. Not as bad as I remember optical fingerprint sensor was on smartphones that I tried. And considering this is a tablet, I'm not really logging in, you know, 100 times a day, because I don't use it as much as I use my smartphone. So a few times a day I will of course use it and log in, maybe use it to log into specific apps and so on. So yeah, anyways, I think the fingerprint sensor is fine enough. And I've been playing around a little bit with the tablet. Actually, I feel the screen is bright enough for my use case. Try to sit next to a window where the sun, or not the sun, it is cloudy today, but a lot of light, just natural light hitting the screen. The screen is very reflective, as you can see my reflection there. That's still a kind of annoyance, but I feel like the brightness of the screen is definitely sufficient, and I didn't even have to crank it up at 100%. When I get a lot of natural light onto the screen, it was like at 70-80% brightness, and still I could read everything on the screen just fine. Definitely a big tablet, not so big when you use it on a table like so, but when you're actually sitting with it in your hand up close, it is definitely very big, considering also I'm used to the smaller variant, because I've spent some time, of course, with the Tab S8. I've had it for like a few days now, and I've been using it every day ever since. Actually been using it much more than I anticipated, because I like it so much. And this is of course just a bigger version of that. But yeah, like with a lot of Samsung devices nowadays, we do have a lot of plastic all the way around the edge there. Let's just peel that off. Always annoys me a little bit when that stuff is on devices. I feel like it's a little bit wasteful, and you kind of have to peel it off. You can of course also leave it there if you want to add a little bit of protection. But yeah, it just, in my opinion, doesn't look all that great, and with time this will also kind of look a little more disgusting. There's kind of 4 of these plastic things you have to pull off. And actually I did get a little strain or eye strain when I used the tablet, or my first impressions actually get a little bit eye strain. Don't know if it's because of the PWM. I'm not really noticing it all that much, but I also didn't get that much sleep last night, so I'm pretty tired or bummed out or exhausted. So that definitely also could be some of the reason why. And this is a much bigger screen, so I kind of have to move my eyes around a little bit to actually look at the content when I'm using it up close. That can also of course give a little eye strain, because I cannot see the entire tablet just by looking at it. I kind of have to either turn my face or turn my eyes around a little bit, or move my eyes around to get the full screen. But definitely do notice a little bit of eye strain, and I think some of that has to do with the fact that it's an OLED screen and uses pulse width modulation for, of course, controlling the backlighting or the brightness of the screen. Doesn't have a backlight, but yeah, brightness of course, because this is an OLED. But anyways, let's just try out the protective stand here that I really want to try in this big tablet here, because this is a very heavy cover, just as is, and of course this is a big tablet. I'm not really sure if it will be too heavy. I feel like almost my S8, the same cover, just got a little too heavy maybe. I've gotten used to it now, but using it without the cover and then putting this cover on, it just almost feels like twice the weight. Not really sure if it's the same with this one here, but let's just try and install it. I really like this book cover as well. Feels kind of nice, but for some reason, when I have it propped up like this, I constantly am reaching for a mouse here, like a trackpad, because I'm just so used to using my laptop like that. And there's no trackpad there, so I'm constantly just disappointed. So I think actually if I use the protective stand instead, that doesn't have this foot here to prop up the tablet, I don't think I will miss the mouse just as much as I do on this case here. But of course, it is all something you'll get used to. Let's just get it off. Very easy to get off this case here. And I always like to give my devices a little bit of a clean whenever I switch cases. So I'll just do that now. And then of course, we just align the right side here first inside the cover into the instructions. And of course, get the entire tablet in there like so. And then we just kind of squeeze it in here, hopefully in the opposite corner, like so, and like so. And yeah, definitely does add a lot of weight to the tablet, but I also feel like it makes it a little more usable. So yeah, I'll keep this case on for now, and when the keyboard case comes, maybe I'll use that backside from that instead. And then we get also a pretty comfortable angle if you just want to use it like this, and also want to use it for drawing. You can kind of put a lot of force onto this, probably not too much force, but it should be enough to just rest your palm there while you're actually drawing something. And speaking of drawing, that's of course one of the big advantages of a device like this, the big canvas there. If you're really into drawing, I think this device here will definitely make you happy. Of course, Samsung Note is actually an excellent place to draw, and there's actually sound effects. Actually not bad sound effects. I mean, it's a little cheeky, yeah, but you kind of get the sense that you are writing on paper. Not bad. And of course you have the button there if you want to erase, or you can program it to do some other stuff. And if you have Bluetooth, and if the pen is charging, you can of course use it away from your screen to control various gestures. I never really found it all that useful, but you can take selfies and you can control the audio on next, skip to next track and so on. So yeah, definitely a nice tool. And if you have the pen close to the screen and tap the button, we get this pop-up menu that we are kind of familiar with Samsung devices. We've seen it on Note devices for many years now. But it is nice if you just want to go and create a note or screen write and live messages and so on. You can do that quickly here, and you can also add another app if you want to. So you have quick access to that, and there's a little icon there you can also press. But of course you can just press the button there, and I find that quite useful. But anyways, let's just get straight into some benchmark. Let's just run Geekbench first and run this CPU benchmark. So let's have a look at the result here. We're looking at close to 1200 in single core score and close to 3300 in multi-core score. Again, this is good score when it comes to like Android devices, but if you compare it to like the M1 MacBook, it does fall quite a bit short. It is very impressive, definitely, what Apple is able to do. But this is fine enough, I would say. It's not like you will use a tablet to its full extreme. For that, I will definitely use my workstation laptop or my desktop computer if I need a lot of power. And I've been using the S8 for some time now, and it is very fluid and fast for the kind of stuff that I do. But anyways, you can see I'll kind of compare here the S8, which has of course the same SoC and so on, close to the same single core, but I'm actually getting a little bit higher multi-core score here on the Ultra. Not really sure, because maybe it has bigger surface area to get rid of the heat. But as far as I can see online, people are actually stating that the S8 Ultra, and I believe the same with all the tablets, is a little underclocked in terms of the capability because they are so thin. But anyways, let's just run compute benchmark here and see the result. And the results are in, and that's pretty much in line with the S8 standard model here, just shy of 6000, and the S8 is just shy of 5900. I also noticed kind of in my camera there that you see a lot of PWM flickering. I'm not really noticing that all that much. I can kind of feel like it is flickering, but I can't really see it. So of course that's just something the camera picks up. But in terms of performance, it's fine enough. I don't plan to play any games or anything like that, doing the video editing. Maybe I'll do some casual photo editing, and it should be plentiful for that kind of task. Let's try out wildlife stream here. Again, see what kind of results we can get. And again, we are pretty close here, but I did run this benchmark in tablet mode, of course, on the S8, and I'm running it in Dex mode here. So maybe there's a slight variation there, but you can see you get pretty close score. So that's pretty comparable still. And in terms of temperature, still, you know, pretty comparable as well, in the 30-ish degrees. Lowest frame 9, highest frame was 18 or 17 here. So yeah, pretty much the same exact performance in this specific test. Let's just run a speed test, see what kind of Wi-Fi performance we can get. I suspect it will be close to a gigabit down, which is actually that's pretty slow. So in terms of download speed, that's a little bit slower than I've seen on other tablets or devices from Samsung. My S22 Ultra, I got almost a gigabit download speed. I do have a 1 gig connection, and this is of course over Wi-Fi 6. And my router is maybe around 5 meters away from here. I can see the upload speed definitely is a little bit faster, but maybe there's some other stuff here connected to my network that is using a lot of data right now. But yeah, I got closer to like 800 on the S8, where this is closer to 600. But yeah, does it really matter? No, I don't think you will really notice this in day-to-day life. Super fast, everything should just run smooth, all stuff should download fast, and so on. That's probably the most important thing. And yeah, I'm getting pretty consistent results here. So around 600-ish download and around 700 is the upload. That's pretty fast. Let's test out the internal storage, see what kind of speed we can get there. So read and write speed, pretty much in line with what I get on the S8 as well. So 904 megabytes per second read and 275 megabytes per second write. The write is pretty spot on here, and the read is a little slower than the S8. But these numbers will of course vary a little bit, and maybe some other stuff is reading from the storage and you will get a little bit lower result, but definitely fine enough. Let's just go in and actually format the storage card, because I just installed of course an SD card. And let's go into SD here, and we have to tap the 3 lines and let's just hit format. And that's always a good thing to do when you install a new SD card. Go into the device itself and format it. That way you are sure that it is formatted properly to the specific devices. Some devices can be a little picky if you have formatted it in another device or on your computer and then install it into the specific device. So yeah, definitely my recommendation. And now we have close to 240 gigabyte of storage, of course, for video and music and stuff, so on. That would be just fine. And if I ever end up using the camera, of course, I'll just record straight to the SD card as well. And in terms of software information, as of this video, we do have Android 12, One UI 4.1. The Google Play system update is of 1st of March 2022. Of course, you can see all the build numbers and so on here. So this is the latest and greatest firmware, of course, we are running on this device as of this video. Let's have a little bit of a sound test here. And that's one thing that kind of surprised me with the S8. Pretty good speakers. Usually Apple have the best speakers in their tablet, but I believe Samsung is close, or maybe even better, or at least very good speakers. So let's just crank this up to 100%. And let's try and enable Dolby Atmos, which is not enabled by default. Let's see if we can get a little bit better audio. I definitely feel like the sound coming from this device is excellent. The Atmos does give a little wider space to the soundstage. Kind of like that. Sound a little bit artificial, but you get a little bit lower frequency and a little more separation between the left and the right side. So I tend to just leave it on, but that of course is a matter of opinion. So definitely do try it out and see if it's for you, and you can always disable it if you don't like it. And you can also have specific modes here. I've just set it to auto, but you can also pick around with between movies, music, and voice. And speaking of voice, let's just listen to one of my videos here. just to get some vocal on.
So in this video, we have a closer look at this TrendNet 2.5 gigabit LAN adapter, PCI Express network adapter. Does support jumbo frames, of course PCI Express, and this is a 2.5 gigabit LAN, and I feel like 2.5 gigabit.
And for this one, let's just try and disable Dolby Atmos.
At least for me here in my home environment, is the sweet spot, both in terms of price and also in terms of power consumption and heat. So it doesn't draw as much power as 10 gigabit and of course 5 gigabit as well, which is not that common. But 10 gigabit definitely does draw a lot more power and heat.
So I feel like Dolby Atmos doesn't really do that much in terms of speaking voice, but in terms of music, you do get a little bit better separation. So audio quality, excellent from this device here. Definitely something that impressed me a little bit. I'm just so used to not having the best speakers in Android devices or tablets, especially if you're used to like listening to Apple devices, even the smartphones and the tablet and the laptop. That usually is kind of a long way from those speakers to like other devices, but I feel like Samsung definitely nailed it out of the park with this one here, and also the S8. Let's just have a look at the camera. Not really something I think that most people will really use in a device like this, at least not the backside cameras. Let's go full screen here. Where is all of the settings? So I guess this is because I'm in Dex mode. Maybe we don't get access to all of the settings. I can kind of disable flash. I can switch between back and front facing cameras, but I can't really get into settings for some reason. So whenever you open the camera, it defaults to the front facing camera, and that's probably also where this tablet will shine if you use it for like conferencing call and stuff like that. Very, very good quality for this camera here. You can see all the wrinkles in my eyes. I look very tired. But you also get the ultra wide version, but why can't I like switch between the two? So I guess that's because I'm in Dex mode. Let's just try and switch to tablet mode actually and see if that changes things. So yeah, I guess you don't get full access to all the camera features in Dex mode. You can see here, once you go into like the tablet mode, you get all of the features. You get portrait mode, you get photo, video and more. And you can also select your focal length here. So it does have the ultra wide camera. So you get kind of a wider stage, definitely more noisy image. The standard wide there definitely looks better. But you can capture a lot of your background with this one here. And of course you get access to all of your settings. Set those up, of course. I do like to have grid lines on there. I always enable that. You can set the default storage location. So I guess for some specific apps, you probably have to go into tablet mode to get into the settings, which is a little unfortunate. But I suppose Dex will mature with time, specifically, or especially when a device like this is out, where you can actually use Dex mode without connecting your smartphone to a screen and mouse and keyboard. You have like the whole thing inside a device like this, which kind of can replace a laptop. Like this could be like the future of computing. But anyways, let's just snap a quick shot here with the backside camera. This is of course the standard wide, and we also of course have the ultra wide there. If you want to capture a little bit more, but definitely much more noisy. You can also go in between the two, but then we will just use some kind of digital zoom. So yeah, if you want the best quality, just stick with 1 time or 0.5 times. And of course, the front facing camera, standard wide camera, ultra wide here. Let's just have a look at the result. So ultra wide camera, yeah, definitely. I look very tired. Does lose out a lot of quality there when you're zooming into the photo, but if you're just using this for video conferencing, it looks very, very good. Very impressive actually. And the standard wide camera definitely do capture more detail. And again, an excellent camera for conferencing calls. And so then we have the backside camera. You do lose out a lot of detail with the ultra wide one. And with the wide one, there's definitely much better quality. But again, I don't really use my tablet cameras all that much. From time to time, I find them useful, mainly for just scanning documents and stuff like that. But for general just purpose camera, I don't really use my tablets at all. Not only because they're a little inferior to like the higher end smartphones, but also it's kind of inconvenient to drag around this big tablet there to snap a photo. Very intrusive. And I believe you can actually capture up to 4K video with the front facing camera. And what did I do there? Did I capture a video? Yeah, you can capture 4K with the front-facing camera. For some reason it started recording. I'm not touching anything. Oh, now it's not recording, but yeah, you can record up to 4K, but it does crop in. Or does it? What is it doing here? Why is it continue recording. Nah, I don't think actually it crops in. You can record 4K Ultra HD with the wide and ultra wide camera. Actually, pretty decent camera just for recording YouTube videos. And just need some pretty good lighting and do the job pretty well. But why does it start recording all the time, not touching the screen? Let's just go into settings and see if there's some kind of automatic shooting options. So you can press the volume keys to take a picture or record a video, zoom in and out, show your palm to the camera to take selfies. Ah, that's the reason. So it kind of think that the stuff I have on my shelf over here is my palm, but if I hold my palm up, it should start recording video. This is a great feature, but yeah, it works some of the times if you hold up your palm and it'll start recording. And for the back-facing camera, we can also record in 4K, 30 FPS. And we do also have the more settings here, so you can actually do pro video on this device here, and you can also do pro photo if you want to, really adjust all aspects of your photography. And of course, you do have night mode, hyperlapse, panorama, food photos, and portrait video as well. So yeah, definitely a pretty full-fledged camera system on this device here. But yeah, who really uses the camera on the tablet? I'm not really sure. And let's just get back into Dex. You can see it does take a few seconds to switch between Dex and tablet mode. Not really slow at all, but it's just something you need to account for if you're switching between the two often or frequently. I do not plan to do so. I plan to just primarily use it in Dex mode. Let's see how far that goes. Maybe it'll be too annoying. I'll go back to tablet mode, but of course you have the option to do both, so that's quite nice. One thing I kind of like when you're in Dex mode, you do get the little X button up here, like you do on a desktop computer or a laptop computer, a proper computer. So you can kind of just exit the application and it will just be removed from the taskbar down here. But one thing I have noticed though is that it's still running in the background if you hit the multitasking app. So if I'm running a video here in the background, it should stop the video once I hit X. But it doesn't really do so, but still the icon disappears down here. So that's a little unfortunate, I think. I think they should just make it so that you tap the little X there to actually exit the application. Else you just kind of have to minimize it for it to still be there. And this time it did actually exit. No, it's still running in the background, but it did pause this time around. So yeah, it's a little bit inconsistent. So you still kind of have to go in here and exit, for instance, YouTube, or close down YouTube in the background. If you, for instance, want to shut down some kind of video that's playing in the background that you didn't really notice. And I noticed that before because it was playing a video in the background, but the YouTube application was not down here. I had hit the X button, but it still kind of showed up here in the multitasking menu. So that's a little unfortunate. Maybe you can tweak that a little bit so apps will actually close when you hit the close button. Also, it would function a little bit like a MacBook where you kind of see the apps still running in memory. There's a little dot over that app if it still runs in memory, so you kind of have to right press that app to close it specifically. But in this one here, even though you hit the X button, still is retained in memory, and you kind of have to go into a separate menu to kind of close it completely. I don't really like that. I wish that it will just continue on the taskbar here or stay in the taskbar, and there will be a little dot or something to notify me that this is still actively held in memory. There are a few settings here within the settings on the Dex or Samsung Dex. So I guess I can play around with that a little bit. You can also hide the taskbar. And of course you can set keyboard, trackpad. How to use Dex, there's a little guide to do so. You can also wallpaper, screen zoom, font size and so on. And you can also do this wirelessly. And you can select it to automatically start when you connect the HDMI or if you connect the book cover to this tablet here. But as far as I can see, there's no way to kind of set up, if I hit the X button, that the specific application will actually also stop running in the background. But you can see that it still is running in the background. Yeah, a little bit annoying and just one of the first things I definitely noticed with the tablet here. But first impression, definitely feels very snappy and fluid. I really like the 120 Hz refresh rate. Just wish it was a variable refresh rate, excuse me, so that it would kind of save a little bit of power. And of course, maybe just between 60 and 120 Hz. So that's a little unfortunate that it's just stuck at 120 Hz. So I'm kind of curious to see what kind of battery life I can get with this one here. I'm hoping I get like the 10-ish hour screen on time. For me, I don't really use a tablet all that much or my laptop all that much. So usually my iPad/MacBook Air M1 that I'm using, I currently have to charge that maybe every third day, maybe 2 times a week. I'll charge my laptop, my M1 MacBook. I'm hoping that it will be kind of the same with this one here. But one thing that Samsung is notorious for is to drain a lot of battery when the device is actually in standby. So I'm also curious to try that out and see how well that works. That's of course one area where Apple is just so far ahead in terms of standby life or standby time. I can kind of just close my MacBook and a week later only had dropped a few percentages of battery and still is ready to use, versus Samsung it kind of drains a lot of battery in the background. I feel like my Tab S8 is definitely draining a little bit faster than I would like to. I did charge it up yesterday and I have used 6 hours and 23 minutes screen on time. And you can see the most I've done is probably just streaming YouTube, a little bit of browsing, running some benchmark and a little bit of Reddit and so on, some applications. But 6 hours, 23 minutes, 3 minutes, and I'm down to 30%. It's not bad at all, but a lot of drainage has been done throughout the night. So I took a screenshot before I went to bed last night. You can see it as 47% there, and today it is at 31%. I have used it a little bit today, maybe 30 minutes or so. So not awful, not as bad as it used to be. Definitely is okay standby time, but I hope I can just leave it in standby for a week and then I can just wake it up again and start using it. And it's only maybe drained 10% or something like that. That would be the ideal situation for me. Sometimes I use my laptop/tablets every day, but sometimes that can kind of go a few days between. But I'm really curious to try and use this as my main device, as a proper ultralight laptop replacement. I couldn't really replace my workstation laptop with something like this, but for browsing, emailing, casual applications, a little bit photo editing and so on, I feel like this one will definitely get the job done. So I'm very curious to get in and try this one, and maybe I don't even need the keyboard case because this is actually a pretty comfortable typing experience. Not something, I want to type out a novel or anything like that, but for the casual stuff I do at least, searching for stuff, writing the occasional email, posts, text messages, reply to comments on YouTube and so on and so on. This should be plentiful. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this video. This is just a first look unboxing of this Tab S8 Ultra, and I will get back with a proper review once I've actually spent some more time with this one. Like I said, I will force myself to use this for 14 days instead of my M1 MacBook Air. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope to see you again in a future one. Until then, take care.